I'm going to tell you something uncomfortable, and that's exactly why you'll want to leave. But stay. There's a real possibility that you're not the one deciding your life, that your tastes aren't really yours, that your goals didn't originate inside you, that even your way of being a good person is a learned disguise. And the worst part is, it works so well you don't even notice. Look, I'm not saying this to scare you. I'm saying it because maybe you've been feeling something strange for a while. As if you're functioning, but not living. As if everything is fine on the outside. And yet inside, there's a hollow space that nothing seems to fill. Sometimes you call it exhaustion. Sometimes you call it a lack of motivation. Sometimes you call it, I'm a bit lost. But the right word is usually something else. Disconnection. And that disconnection doesn't arrive all at once. It arrives the way sleep does. It takes you over quietly. One day you wake up, look at your life and think, when did I become this? In that moment, something scary begins, because that moment often comes with a question that breaks you from the inside. Am I living the life I want, or the life I've learned to perform? Some people, when they ask themselves that question, distract themselves quickly. They put on a series, they work more, they stay busy, they fill the calendar, they fill their head. Anything, as long as they don't have to listen to what's moving underneath. Because what's moving underneath isn't an idea, it's a blow. It's the beginning of a silent crisis, the kind nobody notices, but you slowly start to fade. And this is where an idea comes in that changes the way you understand yourself. Carl Jung called the social mask the persona. The word sounds elegant, but deep down it's quite cruel. The persona is the character you build so the world will love you, not to manipulate, not to deceive, to survive. From childhood, you learn which version of you gets applause, which version of you gets affection, which version of you avoids problems. You're rewarded when you're responsible. You're praised when you stay quiet. You're valued when you produce. You're accepted when you don't cause trouble. And without realizing it, you start leaving entire parts of yourself at the door, just to enter life with other people's permission. The mask becomes useful. It gives you identity, stability, a place, until one day it becomes a cage. And that's when the first symptom appears. Discomfort. That discomfort that isn't cured by sleeping, that isn't fixed with a holiday, that doesn't vanish with a coffee or a change of routine, or it'll pass. Because it's not body fatigue, it's soul fatigue. It's your body telling you this isn't yours. It's your mind saying you're acting. It's something inside you whispering you're betraying yourself. The strange thing is that many people interpret that discomfort as a problem. And it isn't. Discomfort is a sign of health. It's the most honest part of you trying to rescue you. But most people do the opposite. When it appears, they rush to cover it up. They work more. They demand more from themselves. They become more perfect, more correct, more strong. And the mask hardens, until one day it breaks. Not always with a huge tragedy. Sometimes it breaks over something stupid. A Sunday afternoon, a random conversation, a comment that pierces you, a song, a mirror, a silence. And suddenly you realize you've lived for years on autopilot. And here comes the part that truly scares you. Because when the mask cracks, what you've been hiding shows up. Jung called it the shadow. And no, it's not a movie monster. The shadow is everything you've repressed in order to stay accepted. Your anger, your sadness, your insecurity, your need for affection, your desires, your vulnerability, your real ambition, your real fear. The thoughts you never say out loud. Not because you're a bad person, quite the opposite, Because you learned to be good at the cost of cutting yourself off. The shadow is what you shoved into the basement so no one would see it. But there's a psychological law that is ruthless. What you deny doesn't disappear. It transforms. It leaks into your decisions. It shows up as anxiety. It shows up as self-sabotage. It shows up as relationships you repeat and don't understand. It shows up as accumulated rage over small things. It shows up as apathy. It shows up as emptiness. Because the shadow doesn't want to destroy you. It wants you to look at it. But of course, looking at it hurts. It hurts to admit, I'm afraid of failing. It hurts to admit, I feel envy. It hurts to admit, I'm not as strong as I pretend. It hurts to admit, I'm exhausted from always being the one who can handle everything. It hurts to admit, I don't know who I am without this character. And yet, that pain is the price of truth. Here's a twist almost nobody understands. Integrating your shadow doesn't make you worse. It makes you whole. The perfect person is dangerous because it's false. The whole person is powerful because it's real. When you finally accept that you're also contradictory, that you're also human, you stop having to hold up an image. And that's where freedom begins. But not the teenage freedom of doing whatever you want. The adult freedom, which is much rarer and much more valuable. The freedom of not having to prove anything. The freedom to choose from within. And that takes us to the heart of all this. Individuation. Jung described individuation as the process of becoming who you truly are, not who you should be, not who they expect you to be, not who they applaud you for being, who you are when nobody is watching. And pay attention, because this matters. It's not a pretty process. It's not a quote on a mug. It's not a permanent awakening. It's not, I found myself, and that's it. It's an uncomfortable road, slow, sometimes lonely, because it forces you to ask questions you can't answer with pretty words. Am I with this person out of love, or out of fear of being alone? Do I do this work because I choose it, or because it gives me status? Am I like this, or do I act like this so people will love me? Does what I'm chasing nourish me, or does it only distract me? And when you start answering yourself honestly, things happen. Sometimes you change direction. Sometimes you change friends. Sometimes you realize you've been living someone else's life. Sometimes you discover that what you called my personality was just a strategy to fit in. And then another fear appears. Disappointing people. Because when you stop being the comfortable character, you make others uncomfortable. People get used to your mask. People benefit from your mask. People expect you to stay the same. And when you change, they look at you strangely. Some judge you. Some tell you you've become selfish. Some try to push you back into the role you've always played. But there's a truth that hurts more than any judgment. Living so you won't disappoint is a slow way of disappearing. And you didn't come into this life to disappear. You came to live. Living with purpose doesn't mean having a perfect plan. It means something much more humble and much more real. It means aligning your actions with your values. Saying no when you used to say yes out of fear. Choosing what nourishes you even if it isn't popular. Accepting that you don't have all the answers, but you're not going to keep betraying yourself. And on that path, something unexpected happens. You start noticing a strange calm. Not because everything is easy, but because you're no longer splitting yourself in two. Anxiety drops when you stop acting. The noise fades when you stop chasing what doesn't matter to you. Emptiness transforms when you return to yourself. And then you understand something nobody explained to you as a child. Happiness isn't held up by approval. It's held up by coherence. When what you think, what you feel, and what you do start moving in the same direction, a beautiful psychological phenomenon happens. You become reliable to yourself. And that changes everything, because you stop needing the world to confirm you. Now, I want to take you somewhere even deeper, because this isn't only about you. When you dare to live without a mask, your life starts creating a strange effect in others. You inspire, not with speeches, not with motivational phrases, but with the way you exist. There are people who spend their whole lives looking for someone authentic nearby, because their environment is full of characters. And when they see you stop performing, you give them permission. You tell them without words, it's possible. That's a legacy. A legacy isn't money. It isn't fame. It isn't being remembered for your achievements. A true legacy is what you awaken in others when you dare. Sometimes it's a child learning self-love because they saw you set boundaries. Sometimes it's a friend daring to ask for help because they saw you show vulnerability. Sometimes it's someone changing their life because they saw you stop hiding. And that's why the phrase is so brutally true. Life doesn't begin when you achieve something out there. Life begins when you find something in here, when you take off the mask, when you look at your shadow, when you integrate who you are, when you stop living to please, when you return to yourself. And now I'll leave you with a question that might make you uncomfortable. But if it makes you uncomfortable, that's a good sign. If today, tonight, tomorrow, suddenly all other people's expectations switched off, if nobody could judge you, if nobody could give their opinion, if nobody could demand anything from you, what would you do with your life? Don't answer too quickly, because your first answer is probably the mask talking. Stay with the silence 1 second longer. Wait, listen, and when an answer appears that scares you, and at the same time makes you take a deep breath, there you are. That's where your life begins. If you made it to the end, comment "I made it," and I'll reply to you personally. And if it resonated with you, subscribe to be part of it, and hit like if you enjoyed it.